Hello and welcome to Model Dads. Thanks to US over at Minairons Miniatures, we've got the opportunity to take a look at three of their recent 1/100th 15mm Spanish Civil War kits: the T-26A and B light tank, the Panzer I Ausf A, and the Bilbao armoured car. Minairons Miniatures manufacture a range of 1/100th fast assembly vehicles and 18mm Republican and Nationalist figures, flags and decals for the Spanish Civil War, with obvious crossovers into the earliest years of the Second World War. The Panzer I and the T-26 sets contain 5 plastic tanks and retail at €21.95 or around £18.50. That's about £3.70 a tank. The Bilbao armoured car contains 4 resin vehicles and flags and comes in at €29.95 or around £25.25. That's about £6.30 per car. The Soviet T-26 light infantry tank kit contains 5 well-packaged dark green sprues consisting of 10 plastic parts, with the option to build either the twin-turret T-26A or the often erroneously referred to T-26B line variant equipped with a dual-purpose 45mm gun. The German Panzer I Ausf A kit contains 5 light grey sprues consisting of 8 plastic parts, with the option to build more than the 4 rare Panzer Is upgraded with a Breda M35 20mm cannon. The Bilbao armoured car kit contains 4 individually wrapped resin hulls and a separate foam bag containing plastic and resin wheels, gun, turret and headlights. All kits have their instructions helpfully printed on the box's exterior, so you've always got the option of putting the sprues or hulls away if you can't complete the build in one sitting, and come with decals or flags. I'd like to dwell on the provision of flags and decals just for a moment, because this is an aspect recently overlooked by competitors and sets Minairons kits apart. Minairons have thoughtfully provided a range of decals for their kits that enables your T-26 to be fielded by both Republican and Nationalist forces, as well as Soviet, Turkish and Finnish armies. The Panzer I contains German, Chinese and Nationalist markings. All good stuff. Looking at the sprues themselves, you can see that parts are well moulded with no imperfections on visible surfaces. There's a little flash around the rear exhaust and or the road wheels on some of my sprues. Unfortunately, detailing is basic, with the best reserved for the upper hull. For example, the riveted side turret and window are just not represented, and the grille covering the engine ear take is tooled flat. As many of the T-26s sold to Spain were the latest 1937 production type, the absence of the P-40UM anti-aircraft machine gun mount for the Decals LMG and the option to model the rear turret DT machine gun added in 1935 is noteworthy. Detail on the drive sprocket and suspension bogies is weak and appears to suffer from a lack of definition. This is also true of some of the tools on the upper hull which, whilst otherwise well represented, appear a little flat. Unfortunately, the commander represented on the box art isn't the one you get on the sprue. Details are more clearly defined on the Panzer I, with better tooling around the tracks and running gear, compensating a little for the absence of the non-slip pattern on the upper mudguards, the smooth muffler guards and the simplified lower rear hull. The resin Bilbao armoured car ships with separate headlights, turret lights, wheels and MG. Plastic parts are well moulded, while some of the resin hulls could benefit from a bit of a clean-up to remove flash at the front, along the edges and around the rear of the turret. Again, if I had to moan, it would be because the rivets are insufficiently well defined at this scale. Assembly of the plastic kits was very straightforward, with the T-26 taking 10 minutes and the Panzer I 15 minutes. Just take care separating parts from the sprue, as the plastic is a little brittle and the raised sprues make cutting a little difficult and bits can sometimes go flying. Or is that only me? Assemble with a dedicated plastic adhesive. Whilst it's very tempting to keep the turrets interchangeable, they are not generally sufficiently stable to remain in place without support. If you're not going to glue, consider blue tack instead. The Bilbao armoured car was significantly more challenging. If, like me, you're dexterously challenged, be prepared to spend a good 30 minutes on this one. Attaching the headlights was an agony of super glue and tweezers. With no socket for the turret mounted spotlight, I had to drill a small hole before attaching. My concern would be that neither the headlights or spotlight will last long without careful handling. The turret sits a little proud on the finished model, which, to be fair, is shown on the reverse of the box. I'd be inclined to shave a little off the peg so that it sits flush. In terms of relative dimensions, the kits are spot on, with the T-26 coming in at 4.7 centimetres in length and 2.4 centimetres in width, and the Panzer I measuring 4 centimetres in length and 2.1 centimetres in width. I don't have access to comparative measurements for the armoured car. The finished kits are acceptable and, as the box art illustrates, paint up well if you have the talent to do so. Weaknesses in tooling become obvious when Minairons kits are compared to, say, Battlefront's recent T-26 or Zvezda's older Panzer II. Conclusions? Well, for a premium price, Minairons Miniatures Bilbao armoured car neatly fills a gap at 15mm where competition remains relatively slim. If you don't mind working with small parts and are committed to, say, modelling the paramilitary security forces of the Asuntos or assault guards, then this kit will undoubtedly be of interest to you. The T-26 and Panzer I provide the wargamer with a general interest in the interwar and early war periods the opportunity to quickly field two variants of two-dimensionally accurate light tanks supported by an excellent range of decals at a very affordable price. The downside is that this comes at the expense of some accuracy, definition and detail. Dependent upon your taste, intent or the size of your wallet, this may be right up your street, particularly if you're a believer in quantity having a quality all of its own. Now, if you don't mind, I'll get back to my copy of Margal's Reaction y Revolution. No passaran, no passaran.